Shalom Aleichem Rabotai. Welcome to our Wednesday class. We have Yona and Johnny and Steve and Simon and Nick with us today. B'ezrat Hashem, hopefully the crowd will keep on coming. So we last time learned the melachot of hunting and trapping on Shabbat. What animals can we or can't we? And we came to a conclusion that if it's an animal that is dangerous and could kill, then we are allowed to kill it. But if it's not, then like a mosquito, etc., then we are not allowed to kill it. We are allowed to help it leave the room by spraying around it, etc. So we kind of ended with that. And with that, we are going to the next topic in Siman Shin Yud Zayin, which is 317. And this is called Kesher. Making a knot on Shabbat and taking the knot apart on Shabbat would be an Isur. Now, when would this Isur be a Isur from the Torah? When would it be an Isur from Chachamim? And what difference does it make to us? So, B'ezrat Hashem, those are the topics, and we'll dive right in. So, back in the day, there was a special knot that was called Kesher Shel Oman, which means a knot of an expert. What makes the guy an expert? It's a knot. There's one knot that you can do to tie your boat, for example, right? Or let's say they made a special knot on the camel or whatever it is, that only a professional can make that knot. That type of knot is a professional knot. That's category number one. The second category that we care about is for how long is this not going to exist? All right, is it a short term or is it a long term? Some say a week, some say 24 hours, but whatever it is, if it's long term, if it's meant to stay forever, if it's not meant to be opened, everybody agrees that that would be a long term knot. If you have both categories, if it's a knot that was done by a professional knot, meaning not just done by a professional, and it's there to stay forever, this would be an Isur Torah. So if a guy that has a specialty in making unique knots, like tying a boat, and he doesn't mean to open it ever again, he does it once and it's for life, and he would do that on Shabbat, he would be over Isur Deoraita. However, if I have I don't know, a garbage bag and I decide to make the three knots on it, one on top of the other, uh, it's not necessarily considered a Isur Deoraita. It won't be a professional knot. It may be closed forever, or else maybe they open the garbage. I don't know how it works exactly. But the idea is shoelace. Why are we allowed to tie shoes on Shabbat? Well, first of all, it's not a professional knot. That's considered a very simple knot. People like us know how to do those knots. So with that, we're covered. And even if it were a professional knot, but if it's done to end eventually, it's not there forever, which is the case in shoelaces, then it's still just going to be a isur, but from Chachamim. When you have one of the categories, when it's either a professional knot or it's done to last forever, those are still going to be isurim, but from the Rabbanan. When is there no isur? When I have none of those. Okay? So when I come to a shoelace, it's not a professional knot and it's not going to last forever. But if you have these shoes like I have, the on clouds, that sometimes they're with like a stretchy, when you tie the laces, it has a stretchy lace, and you kind of make a knot in the beginning of it and at the end of it. Your intention when you make that knot is that it will last forever because you slide your shoe right in. You know what I'm talking about? Those type of shoes that you slide right in and out. So if it's that type of knot, even though it's not a professional knot, but it's meant to last forever. So when you do that type of knot on Shabbat, it would still be a isur from Chachamim, and not just to hold the lace so it doesn't go in ever again. So the advice they give, if someone is going to do that on Shabbat, that he has in mind, the Motzei Shabbat is going to open that knot and then retie it, no problem. But as long as it wasn't there to stay forever, since it's not a professional knot, that's a clear example of how we have to be careful from the Isur of Chachamim. That's a good solution. All right.
You have to have it in mind or actually reopen it after Shabbat.
I would say both. Once you have it, once you're going to reopen it on Shabbat, on Motzei Shabbat, you also already had it on. You have to reopen it on Motzei Shabbat. Yeah, your intention needs to be. It really goes by intention. Your intention needs to be that this is not a knot that I'm going to keep forever. All right. You could ask what happens if Motzei Shabbat I forgot. That's a different story. But theoretically, once in your mind you said, no, this is not a knot I'm going to keep forever, then you covered it. Just make sure on Motzei Shabbat to actually open it. But it goes by the state of mind. All right. So some say, as I mentioned before, what is considered, they call it in the language of halacha, kesher shel kayama. Kayam means existing. Okay, so a knot that is kesher shel kayama is a knot that's going to last. What is the definition of that? Some say 24 hours. which means if by Motzei Shabbat I'm going to open it, then it's less than 24 hours, then it's already not Kesher Shel Kayama. So I don't have that. If I don't have that, if that's out of the picture, the only problem I can have is if it's a knot that is done in a professional way. Let's talk about a tie, for example. Some ties, you're able to open the knot that you made with one hand. You just pull and it opens. A knot like that would not be considered a professional knot. And since you're about to open it on Motzei Shabbat, then there's no problem. However, you have people that make knots on their ties. I've seen this before, and they don't open their ties. They just, make it open and close so that they could put it around their neck, but they leave it hanging in their closet with the knot. It's not recommended for the tie, but if someone does that, you should know that he shouldn't make a knot like that on Shabbat. Why? For which one of the two reasons that we mentioned? For the reason that it's not going to be out after 24 hours, or for the more lenient after a week. Your intention is to keep that knot forever. So even though it's not a isur deoraita because it's not a strong knot or a professional knot, it's still going to be a isur de rabbanan. By the way, if it's going to be the special knots where you cannot even open it with one hand, but rather you have to undo everything that you did, that would be considered a professional knot. That would even be considered a isur deoraita. So you have to be careful on that. If you're going to open it on Motzei Shabbat, you're good. And even if you're going to open it on Motzei Shabbat, but you're making a knot that is a very complicated knot on Shabbat, that may also be an issue. It needs to be light knots, simple knot, not more than one spin in and out where it can slide right out and it's not like something very, very complicated. I think most knots aren't very, very complicated, but if you learn these special knots and you're going to do them on Shabbat, better you do them before Shabbat. Uh, that would be the recommendation. All right. So there's something called kesher al gabei kesher, a knot above a knot, right? If you make a knot above a knot, some say that may be a problem on Shabbat. So if you're taking out the garbage and you want to make a knot, then you make another knot to put it outside. So the halacha, Yalkut Yosef says, Hamachmir, whoever is strict not to do that, tavo alav beracha. But even if you're doing one knot on top of the other, some people do that with their shoelaces, they do like a double knot. It says since it's temporary and it's not considered a professional knot, then I would say that it would be okay. All right. This makes me wonder if those knots that we make on a tie and Shabbat are considered a professional knot. Because really the Gemara mentioned that it's a kesher shel sapanim, like the boat, those that tie the boats. It's not such a thing. If it's a knot on the tie that a lot of people need to easily do, I don't know if that would be considered a professional knot. So if you open it on Motzei Shabbat, that would be easy. So it depends on the knot, right? But
Ziv, I think a lot of people don't know how to do them. Like a bow tie, for example. A nice bow tie, I would say probably most people don't know how to do it.
so you're saying a bow tie may be considered a kesher sheloman. But even though most people don't know how to do it, but what is the knot itself? It's basically like a shoelace knot. What they do with the bow tie is the same thing you do with the shoelace. You close it once, then you wrap it around. It's not so easy to do. It's not so easy to make it come out. You know what I mean? Yeah, maybe the British are more experts in that, and we don't see it so much in our community. I heard once that architects, I have an uncle that's an architect, he always wore bow ties. He still, and he says, no, it's because when we would work, our tie would get stuck in the work, so we would always wear bow ties so it doesn't fall on the papers. But you don't see so many people. But you're saying maybe it could be considered kesher sheloman. I don't know. I don't know. It's better that we don't add stuff that may be considered. We stick to what Chachamim said, like the bow tie, like tying the boat, because if someone does do that, why should we put him in that category? Today in the morning we had a shul with Rav Ben Chaim, and we noticed that people asked him, "Oh, but if people do this, it should be a problem also." He was mentioning a few things, and the rabbi kept on saying, "I think it's okay. It doesn't say anywhere in the halacha that it's asur." And everyone's like, "Oh, come on, Rabbi! Like, really?" And we understood that the Rav has wide shoulders, and he knows that when he makes a decision. Now, if he says it's asul and there are a lot of people in the community doing it, he just made them people that are bal avira, that are doing something wrong. So if you have a way to make, the leniency wider, to make life, he said, make life sweet for people. That's what he says. Make it sweet for people. So let's not add, hopefully the bow tie, I don't know how many people tie it on Shabbat, but as long as you're opening it on Motzei Shabbat, then I think you should be okay. Ezrat Hashem. All right. And then he jumps to another topic about turning a fire on Shabbat. This is the order of the Shulchan Aruch. So even though we're really done with the making knots, but this is where he's going right now. If a goy turns on a fire on Shabbat, Is that allowed to or is it not allowed to? So we've been learning in this class to examine. Whenever a case comes before us, we always have to ask ourselves, wait, what is the isur here? Is this a isur deoraita or isur de rabbanan? So everybody knows that lo tevaru esh b'chol moshevotechem b'yom HaShabbat. Turning on a fire on Shabbat is a isur deoraita. But once an isur deoraita is being done by a goy, it already lowers it to isur derabanan. All right? Until now. So what does the halacha say? The halacha says that if it's cold outside or maybe inside the house, and you have little kids under the age of 6 years old, 6 or under, halachically they are called cholim. Halachically, cholesh en bo sakana. So if you have a child that's under 6 years old, then you would be allowed to tell a goy to turn on a fire on Shabbat, even though it's a Isur Deoraita, because once the goy did it, it's the Rabbanan, and you're allowed to do a Isur de Rabbanan for a Choleh. Since a baby under the age of 6, halachically is considered a Choleh, then you could do Isurei de Rabbanan for him. He says, however, the Yalkut Yosef, that if it's very cold, then even for older people, you're allowed to turn on the fire, right? Why? Because halacha says that kol cholim etzelat sina. A lot of people get sick from cold. So you see it, but maybe thank God not the sicknesses that we see, but a lot of people they get runny noses. Back in the day, it wasn't so simple to be sick. A lot of people, when they were sick, lo alenu, they would pass away. So halacha is since cold can make people sick, if it's very cold that grown-ups are suffering from it as well, you would be theoretically allowed to tell a goy to turn on a fire for you on Shabbat or an oven or whatever it is to stay warm. All right, we just finished B'Shah Tova, Siman Shin Yud Zayin.
Ziv, if you ask a doctor if cold makes you sick, they adamantly say no. Just, but I agree with you on that.
It's because they don't come to Bet HaMidrash. You got to tell the doctor to
Maybe.
come to the class, then you'll know.
All right.
Alright. All right, so now we're moving on to Siman Shin Yud Chet, one of the more famous simanim in Shulchan Aruch when it comes to Hilchot Shabbat, and it has a lot of different topics, so let's dive right in. First of all, probably the most famous one, if a Jew cooked on Shabbat, what is the din of the food? Who can enjoy the food? Can he enjoy the food right away after Motzei Shabbat? So let's start with the case of mezid. Mezid means it wasn't a mistake. He didn't by mistake put something on the plata that he didn't know wasn't cooked and it got cooked on Shabbat, but rather he took something that is not cooked, he put it on the plata on Shabbat. He said, "Now I'm going to cook these vegetables." He takes water, he puts vegetables. Let's cook. So he is mevashel b'mezid. What is the din? Can he enjoy this food after you already did it? Or can somebody else enjoy it? When? Right now or only after Shabbat? There's a machloket in the Gemara about this. Halacha lemaseh, if he did it on purpose, he is forbidden to eat these cooked vegetables forever. Even in 10 years from now, if for he wants it, no, it doesn't matter. Once he did it on Shabbat on purpose, he cannot enjoy it forever. However, another Jew, a fellow Jew, can enjoy it, but on Motzei Shabbat. He can't enjoy it during Shabbat because that would be a Isur de Rabbanan of Hana'a mima'aseh Shabbat. Enjoying someone else's Chilul Shabbat is a Isur de Rabbanan, but it's still a Isur. You cannot enjoy it, right? But on Motzei Shabbat, he can enjoy it. And he can enjoy it right away. He doesn't have to wait a certain amount of time that it would have taken theoretically to cook these vegetables after Shabbat. Why am I pointing this out? Because with a goy, that is the case. If a goy now came on the plata on Shabbat and took some vegetables and cooked them or whatever it is, and now I want to eat that on Motzei Shabbat, besides the isur of bishul goyim, let's say we have that's a different topic. We overcame the issue bishul goyim that we plugged in the fire or the plata before Shabbat, and let's say it's in a place where he works for me and Rav Ovadia is matir for the goy to do that. But if a goy did that and it was all kosher and perfect, can I enjoy it on Motzei Shabbat? Yeah, during Shabbat I cannot. On Motzei Shabbat I can enjoy it. But when a goy does it, we tell you, please wait. How long did it take him to cook the food? 45 minutes? Once Shabbat is over, you have to wait 45 minutes and then you can enjoy. Why can't I eat it right away? When the Jew cooks it, I could eat it right away. When the goy cooks it, I have to wait 45 minutes. Does that make sense? Can anybody give me the logic behind this halacha? Why with a goy I would have to wait 45 minutes and with the Jew no? What do you think? Chachamim were scared of something. Try to think out loud with me. What were Chachamim scared of that they were more strict on a Jew then sorry, when they're more strict on a goy than on the Jew. Chachamim were scared that you are going to come to tell a Jew to cook. If we allow you to eat it on Motzei Shabbat, then what are you going to say? Oh, he did it and I can eat it? In that case, I'll tell him to do it. Everybody knows that when it comes to a Jew, you're not going to tell a Jew to cook for you on Shabbat. Maybe I said it wrong. I was referring to the goy. When it comes to the Jew, everybody knows you're not going to tell a Jew to cook for you on Shabbat because just like for you it's asul, for him it's asul. But the goy, for him, he's allowed to cook on Shabbat. So Chachamim are scared that if we allow you to eat it right on Motzei Shabbat, then a few minutes before Shabbat ends, you'll already tell the goy, listen, cook it now, I'm going to eat it on Motzei Shabbat. We tell, since we're scared, you're going to tell a goy to do Chilul Shabbat for you, anyway, you're going to have to wait that time on Motzei Shabbat. So don't tell him during Shabbat. But with a Jew, we don't force you to wait because no one is scared that you're going to tell a fellow Jew to cook on Shabbat because you know that it's asul. If you're a person that is observant of halacha, you're not going to tell your fellow Jew to cook on Shabbat. So this is an interesting case where we're more strict when a goy does something rather than a Jew. It's pretty rare. All right. Now, when we said that this Jew cooked bemezid on purpose and he is not allowed to eat it forever, that is one halacha. He has isur achila, but there's another isur called isur hana'ah. Is he allowed to enjoy it? I'll give you an example. How can I enjoy something? For example, in basar v'chalav, meat and dairy, the Torah says 3 times the pasuk, lo tevashel gedi b'chalev imo. You cannot cook the animal with the milk of his mother. For Chachamim learn from here. Why is it written 3 times? Just write the pasuk 1 time. If it's written 3 times, it's here to give us 3 different isurim, 3 different things that are asur. Number 1, isur achila. You cannot eat milk and dairy together. Number 2, you cannot cook, isur bishul. You cannot cook milk and dairy together, which means if I'm not going to eat the milk and dairy, even if I'm just cooking it, I work in a goy restaurant and they tell me, please cook right now a cheeseburger, it's isur, but I'm not eating it. Isur bishul, you're not allowed to cook it as well. And the 3rd time it's written in the Torah, why? To teach us isur hana'ah, which means if I already went and I cooked this meat and dairy, okay, I'm not going to eat it, but am I allowed to sell it to a goy and at least make money off it? The answer is that's called isur hana'ah. Even to enjoy something from it, you cannot. So why am I saying all that? Because this Jew that just cooked on Shabbat, we tell him, since you did it in mezid, you're never allowed to eat from it. However, you are allowed to have isur hana'ah, which means that on Motzei Shabbat, he is allowed to sell it to a goy. Only he himself can never eat it, but he is allowed to enjoy it. How do you enjoy it? By selling it and making money off it. Now, all of this was under the category of mevashel b'mezid. The guy on purpose came and did a chilul Shabbat that he was aware of. But if someone cooked bishogeg, for example, how could that happen? The guy woke up in the morning, he forgot it's Shabbat, he started cooking. Or he cooked in the evening and he thought Shabbat still didn't come in yet. And oh my God, I can't believe it, I cooked on Shabbat. What is the halacha over here? It says, so even though during Shabbat, no one is allowed to enjoy it because it would be a isur hana'ah. You're enjoying something that was done on Shabbat. However, on Motzei Shabbat, everybody can enjoy it, even the person that himself cooked. We tell him you can eat it on Motzei Shabbat. Why? Because you were shogeg. When you're mezid, we tell you forever you cannot enjoy it. When you're a shogeg, when you did it by mistake, you could still enjoy it. However, we'll learn now that there's another category, and this comes, for example, to non-kosher restaurants that are open on Shabbat, but they tell you, no, but all our food is kosher. Come by with us on Motzei Shabbat. Is that a problem? Is that not a problem? So he says like this. If someone is mechalel Shabbat for other people, and it's be'ofen kavua, which means it's not a one-time thing. Let me give you an example. In Israel, back in the day, a lot of the soccer games were done on Shabbat. And everybody on Motzei Shabbat would love to watch the summary of the games of Shabbat. Now, when after we learned, we understand that there's a problem with that. Because the photographer that took the video on Shabbat, he did it b'mezid. So if he does it b'mezid, what did we learn? That only he cannot watch this video on Motzei Shabbat. But I am allowed to. I just wait until after Shabbat. I'm not the one that did it. I should be allowed to. Says the Yalkut Yosef, and this is halacha. We only allow when he did it as a one-time thing. But if this is his job, it's something that he does regularly, this Jew is באופן קבוע, regularly mechalel Shabbat so that a fellow Jew can enjoy it. Over there, we don't say all the other Jews can enjoy it on Motzei Shabbat as well. Right? So he gives the example like if someone opens a restaurant regularly on Shabbat and cooks on Shabbat, and he says, no, but everything is kosher, Motzei Shabbat, my clients will come and enjoy. I'm the mezid. For me, it's forbidden forever. But for you guys, it's going to be kosher. We don't allow even other people to come and eat over there because there are two categories here. It's not only mezid, it's not only that he does it on purpose, but he does it regularly for other people. If it's done regularly for other people, now, this is kind of a gray territory. What exactly does it mean regularly? Okay, so ask your local, as my brother-in-law Aaron says, ask your local Orthodox rabbi. Ask your rabbi to what he thinks. But now we know that there are two categories. There's one, if he did it on purpose or not, and two, if it's done regularly. That would also be a problem. Now, what happens if a
Wait,
son...
Ziv,
Yes, Chavod.
sorry, if he knows it's wrong and he does it once, why is it okay? If he's filming the game once and he knows the halacha.
It's not okay, and he would not be able to enjoy it. But the question is, can other people enjoy it? We learned that when he does it on purpose, he forever can't enjoy it anyway. The only question is about other people. We tell other people you can enjoy it only when the guy did it one time for you. But if regularly this guy is your goy shel Shabbat, every Shabbat he cooks for you during Shabbat because he knows that Motzei Shabbat you want to eat, and you know that other people are allowed to eat it. So then you would say, okay, you'll just make him into your Goy Shel Shabbat. Every Shabbat work for me. When the guy is doing it regularly for you, even you can't enjoy it on Motzei Shabbat. But when it's not done regularly, he did it one time, he cooked for himself, then you go over his house on Motzei Shabbat, you want to eat this? I made a mistake this Shabbat. I want to do teshuvah. I can't eat this anymore. You want to eat it? You say, yeah, I'm allowed to eat it. You don't do it regularly for other people. You did it for yourself, one time thing, even if you do it a few times, but it's not regularly. That's the definition. When it's done regular for you, I guess the concern is, as we just mentioned, that you'll turn this guy into your Goy Shel Shabbat. You don't keep Shabbat. Yeah, do it for me every Shabbat. And that's what Chachamim were strict over here. Now, what happens if a son is hosted by his parents and the parents cook on Shabbat, right? So they tell him, when you come over, we're not going to cook on Shabbat. We're going to put a plata. We're going to prepare the food from before. Sounds good. Sounds like kosher parents. But the question is, the pot that they use, they are using pots for you that these pots have been cooked with on Shabbat. Is it a problem for you to eat food from those pots? Right? So the answer is that the sir lo nifsal, the pot doesn't become pasul by someone cooking on Shabbat. He says ra'uy, it's worthy that if you're able to do hagala for this pot, so that you remove whatever was cooked from it on Shabbat, so that you don't enjoy it, good. But it's not a requirement, and therefore halacha lemaseh, a pot that food was cooked in on Shabbat, if everything is kosher on Motzei Shabbat, I could use that pot and eat from it. All right. Next topic that Yalkut Yosef brings us is hana'a michashmal, enjoying electricity or enjoying someone that turned on a generator on Shabbat. This is very relevant when sometimes we have blackouts in Israel, and they fixed a blackout during Shabbat. Over here, it's easier because the electric company is goyim. They come, they fix it on Shabbat. Now your plata works again. A goy did it. Okay. But in Eretz Israel, all the workers in Chevrat HaChashmal and the electricity company, they're fellow Jews. So now there was a blackout, and my plata, my hot plate of Shabbat, is out, and a fellow Jew just came, fixed the electricity in the neighborhood, and now my plata is working again. Can I use that plata? What would be the reason to say, no, I cannot use the plata? What we just learned. I'll be enjoying a melacha that is done by a fellow Jew and on Shabbat, not Motzei Shabbat. If it was Motzei Shabbat, it's not regularly, it's a one-time thing. Everybody agrees, no problem. But I want to enjoy it on Shabbat. Can I enjoy the melacha that a fellow Jew did on Shabbat? The answer should be no. But halacha lemaseh, we see that when that happens, everybody puts the food back on the plata and eats. So what allows us to eat while we're enjoying a melacha that is done by a fellow Jew from the electric company in Eretz Yisrael? And the answer is that Rav Ovadia says that since almost everywhere they are people that are considered halachically cholim, sick people, And if they don't have the electricity, it could bring them into a life-endangering situation. Therefore, whatever the electric company does is mutar, and therefore, since it's done beheter, you would be allowed to enjoy it. What a beautiful loophole. Rabbi Vadia always finds room for the difficult situations that we have. Baruch Hashem. Okay, so he says there are people that are strict to use a generator. I don't know, a generator, I guess it's called in English. I don't know how often or how many people have it here, but a lot of people in Bnei Brak don't like this kula of Rav Ovadia. They want to be strict. And what they do is they have a generator that once the electricity falls, then the generator automatically starts to work and it provides electricity that is independent on the electricity of the municipality. It's like their own battery that goes into function once the municipality function battery dies. And if they do that, or some even use it for the entire Shabbat, then they are set and they have no questions. But most of the people, definitely people that do not live in Bnei Brak, do not have that. Baruch Hashem, that we have Rav Ovadia to rely on. All right, how are we doing with time? Let's try to get in one more halacha, Bezrat Hashem. Yeah, this will be the last halacha of Siman Shin Yud Zayin, so let's get it in, Bezrat Hashem. Ha'oseh isur derabanan b'shogeg. Someone did a isur, but not a isur from the Torah, only isur from Chachamim, and he did it by mistake. Then what would be the din of that? Let me give you an example, all right? Cooking from the sun is allowed. If I take I take a raw egg on Shabbat or whatever it is, and I put it under the sun, and I'm holding it, and it cooks. You know, you have certain deserts, hot places, Dubai, that if you do that for enough time, I don't know if your hand is going to survive the heat, but the egg may be cooked on Shabbat. Halacha lema'aseh, that's mutar. That's called bishul b'chama. Just so you know, you are allowed to cook on Shabbat from the sun. Amazing. However, the halacha says that if you cook from the toldot of the chama, what is toldot chama? Something that came as a result of the sun. For example, you took a frying pan and you held it against the sun for a long time until it became boiling fire hot, and then you cracked the egg on that. That's asur. You may ask why. If I can do it directly from the sun, I can't do it from something that's the sun, the ben, the result of the sun, the frying pan, and don't turn the fire on Shabbat. I just use the sun. Why am I forbidden to crack that egg on that boiling hot frying pan on Shabbat? Anybody have an idea what's the reasoning that Chachamim put this restriction on us? It's not from the Torah. Chachamim put this restriction.
It's more intentional.
It's more intentional. Elaborate on that. What do you mean by intentional?
You are preparing the pan to eventually cook. So
Oh, as opposed to, yeah, but
yeah.
if I'm holding an egg against the sun, I'm right now cooking. Forget the preparing. What about the cooking?
Ah, okay.
We see that the cooking is allowed. So what's the
Yeah.
problem? Chachamim, their concern was that if we're going to allow you to use a hot frying pan, you are going to come to put the frying pan on the flame, not the sun. And that would be forbidden. Putting it on the plata or putting it on something and heating it from there is forbidden. Oh, but I just heated it from the sun. Yeah, but how do you know? Once we opened the gate of using vessels that were heated, we lost control over if you heated it from the sun or from the hot plate on Shabbat. And therefore, you could only heat it up directly. So, if someone did take a frying pan and put it in the sun, or the sand is boiling hot on the beach, let's say on Shabbat or in the desert, and he put an egg inside the sand that boiled from the sun, and now this egg is cooking on Shabbat, you would be allowed. Now, he did it on purpose. Let's say he dropped that egg into the sand on Shabbat. You would be allowed to eat that egg on Shabbat. Because when it becomes to bishogeg, we don't give a knas. We don't say, oh, you have to wait until Motzei Shabbat. It was done by mistake. If it's done by mistake, then we would be allowed to eat that egg on Shabbat. Of course, if someone does it on purpose and comes and puts it into the sand, the boiling sand, Shabbat will be forbidden. But when it's derabanan, it's much more lenient. So we learned when it comes to isur, deoraita, and someone is doing it on purpose, we have to wait until Motzei Shabbat for other people. But in this case, you would be isur derabanan that was done b'shogeg. I could enjoy it right away. All right, we'll stand over here, Rabotai. תזכו למצוות, חזק וברוך.
Thank you. Chazak Baruch. Thank you, Ziggy.
Oh, guys, before I forget, a week from today at nighttime, there's going to be in the social hall, our 10th annual Mashadi community Siyum Hashas. We're bringing a very big rabbi from Israel to give a speech, and we're going to have a whole ceremony with the Rabbi Ben Chaim, and there's going to be a meat dinner. I'll send an invite to the chat, but please sign up. We'd love to see you all over there. Right?
Thank you, Ziggy.
Thank you, Ziv.
Bye-bye.